Gang ties black woman to a tree. One call later, her Delta Force husband arrives. Where are you watching from? Type your city in the comments. You might just get a shout out in the next video. Hit like and subscribe for some good luck today. The night was quiet, except for the distant hum of cicadas and the occasional bark of a dog somewhere down the dirt road. The old oak tree stood at the edge of the abandoned lot, its branches twisting like dark arms into the moonlit sky. Beneath it, a woman struggled against the ropes cutting into her wrists. Her breathing was ragged, her heart hammering. Her name was Alana. She had gone out for a late drive after work, just to clear her head, when the black van cornered her at the crossroads. She didn't even see them coming. 4 men, their faces shadowed by hoodies, yanked her out of her car, bound her, and dragged her to the tree. Their laughter echoed in the still air, cruel and taunting. "Thought you could drive through here at night and nobody would notice," one of them sneered. His voice carried the tone of someone who enjoyed fear. "We run these streets. And you're just a message to anyone who forgets that." Alana gritted her teeth, sweat beading her forehead. Her phone had been knocked from her hand in the struggle, but by some miracle, it hadn't locked. Her smartwatch buzzed faintly, the emergency dial she'd activated still open. Only one man in the world would see that signal. Only one man could answer. Miles away, inside a quiet suburban home, Daniel sat at the edge of his bed, scrolling absently through pictures his daughter had sent him earlier that evening. He was a Delta Force operator, trained, hardened, dangerous, but tonight, he was just a husband missing his wife. Then his phone vibrated. A silent alarm. A distress call. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. He stood, pulling a bag from the closet, already packed, always ready. Inside, tactical gear, a suppressed pistol, a folding knife. Daniel's training told him not to panic, but the fire in his chest was undeniable. Someone had dared touch his wife. Back at the tree, Alana tried to keep her voice steady. "You don't have to do this. Whatever message you're trying to send, it's not worth it." One of the men leaned close, his breath sour. "You don't get to talk. You just sit here and pray someone finds you before we decide what comes next." But his arrogance blinded him. He didn't see her eyes flicker with something other than fear. He didn't see the faintest spark of hope. Because she knew her husband wasn't just anyone. He was the kind of man who could vanish into shadows and reappear behind enemies. He was the kind of man entire gangs whispered about without even knowing his name. Daniel's truck roared down the highway, headlights slicing through the night. He didn't call the police. He didn't need to. He traced the signal, his mind locked on the GPS coordinates flashing across the screen. Every second counted. Every mile felt like an eternity. The gang had grown restless. They circled her like wolves. One pulled out a switchblade, flicking it open with a grin. "Maybe we should carve a reminder," he said, his voice dripping malice. Alana clenched her fists, forcing herself not to show the fear clawing inside her. "You touch me and you'll regret it," she whispered. They laughed. The sound was sharp, ugly. But then, a distant growl of an engine cut through the night. Headlights swept across the lot. The gang tensed, exchanging quick looks. A black pickup truck rolled in slow, its engine low, deliberate, like a predator approaching its prey. The door creaked open, and Daniel stepped out. He wore no uniform, just a black jacket, jeans, boots. But there was something in the way he carried himself, something unmistakable. Calm. Dangerous. Absolute. "Step away from her," he said quietly. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut sharper than a blade. The gang leader chuckled, masking his unease. "Who's this? Some hero husband." He pulled a pistol from his waistband, pointing it at Daniel. "Walk away, old man. This ain't your business." Daniel's eyes never left him. "That woman tied to the tree. She's my wife. Which makes this my business. Last chance, let her go." The men laughed again, but the laughter didn't last. In a blur, Daniel moved. His training was a storm unleashed. The first man didn't even fire before Daniel's elbow smashed into his jaw, sending him sprawling. A second lunged with a knife. Daniel twisted, disarmed him, and sent the blade spinning into the dirt. Alana's heart pounded, watching her husband transform into something terrifying and beautiful. He was precision, discipline, and fury all at once. Every strike was controlled, every movement efficient. One by one, the men dropped, groaning, scrambling to get up. The leader finally fired. The shot cracked through the night, but Daniel had already shifted, the bullet grazing past. In 2 steps he closed the distance, slamming the man against the tree, forearm pressed against his throat. "You thought you could terrorize her?" Daniel's voice was ice. "You thought you could make her a message?" He leaned closer, eyes burning. "Here's your message. She's not alone. And men like me don't forgive." The leader's bravado collapsed. He coughed, choking, nodding frantically. Daniel shoved him to the ground and turned back to his wife. Alana's eyes welled with tears as he cut the ropes, his hands gentle despite the adrenaline coursing through him. She fell into his arms, trembling, whispering, "I knew you'd come. I'll always come," he murmured, holding her tight. The sound of sirens grew in the distance. A neighbor must have heard the gunshot. The remaining gang members scrambled to their van, speeding off into the night, leaving their leader groaning in the dirt. Daniel didn't chase them. He didn't need to. He had what mattered. When the police arrived, they found Alana safe, the gang leader detained, and the story already spreading through whispers in the community. Neighbors who had feared these men for years suddenly found courage. They saw that darkness wasn't invincible, that fear could be beaten back by love and resolve. Later that night, as Daniel sat beside his wife, he held her hand and said softly, "I don't care how far, how dark, or how dangerous, it'll never matter. You'll never face it alone." And Alana, leaning into him, whispered, "They thought tying me to that tree made me powerless. But what they didn't know was that one call brought the storm. You were my freedom." The lesson was clear. Evil thrives on silence, on fear, on the hope that no one will stand up against it. But when love answers fear, when courage rises against cruelty, the balance shifts. No gang, no weapon, no darkness can withstand the power of someone who refuses to give up on the people they love. Because in the end, justice isn't always a courtroom. Sometimes, justice is a husband who answers a call and reminds the world that family is worth fighting for.